Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the command deck of Titan's Gate and watched the stars through the massive windows. The fortress was huge. It was bigger than most cities on Earth. For 50 years, it had protected the main route to humanity's homeworld. Nothing had ever gotten past it. Captain So-min walked up to him. She looked worried. "Sir, the alien ships are still coming. Our sensors show 3,000 of them." Hyun-woo nodded. He had seen the reports. The Vorthak had sent the biggest fleet anyone had ever seen. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, sir. The admiral turned to look at his crew. They were good people, the best that humanity had to offer. Many of them had families back on Earth. They all knew what this battle meant. If Titan's Gate fell, Earth would be next. Commander Tae-ho ran over from his station. "Admiral, we just got a message from the Vorthak fleet. They want to talk." "Put it on screen." The main display showed a huge alien face. It had gray skin and yellow eyes. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. This was War Master Gethrock, leader of the Vorthak forces. "Human Admiral," the alien said in a deep voice. "I am Gethrock. Your people have one chance to live. Give us all your worlds beyond your home system. Leave this fortress. We will let you stay on Earth like pets." Hyun-woo felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "This is Admiral Hyun-woo of the Human Defense Force. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not bow to threats." Gethrock laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Then you will die. Your little fortress cannot stop my fleet. In 6 hours you will all be dead." The screen went dark. So-min looked at the admiral. "Sir, should we call for backup?" Hyun-woo shook his head. "The nearest fleet is 2 weeks away. We're on our own." He turned to the crew. "All hands, this is the admiral. Prepare for battle. Get all civilians to the escape pods. Today we show these aliens what humans are made of." The next few hours passed quickly. Families said goodbye as civilian ships left the station. Weapons were loaded. Shields were raised. Every person on Titan's Gate knew they might die today. Tae-ho worked at his station checking the fortress defenses. Titan's Gate had the best weapons humanity could build. Massive guns that could destroy a ship with one shot. Shields that had never been broken. Missile systems that could track 100 targets at once. "All systems ready, sir," Tae-ho reported. So-min was at her station, watching the enemy fleet get closer. "They're almost here. I count exactly 3,000 ships. All of them are bigger than our destroyers." The alien ships came out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. They were dark and ugly, covered in spikes and gun ports. The largest ship was 3 times bigger than Titan's Gate itself. "They're surrounding us," So-min said. Classic siege formation. Hyun-woo watched the enemy ships take position. The Vorthak knew what they were doing. They had done this before to other worlds. "Sir, they're charging weapons," Tae-ho called out. "Fire first," Hyun-woo ordered. Titan's Gate erupted with light. Every gun on the station fired at once. The massive beams of energy reached across space and hit the alien ships. Several exploded in bright flashes, but there were so many more the aliens fired back. Thousands of green energy bolts flew toward the fortress. They hit the shields like rain on a roof. The lights on the bridge flickered as the shields absorbed the damage. "Shields at 80%, Tae-ho reported. The battle had begun. For 3 days, the fighting continued without stop. Titan's Gate's guns never stopped firing. The alien ships attacked in waves. Some got close enough to fire into the station's hull. Emergency teams ran through the corridors, fixing damage and fighting fires. So-min worked without sleep, coordinating the defense. She was brilliant at reading enemy movements. Every time the aliens tried a new attack, she was ready for them. Her tactics saved hundreds of lives, but the aliens had too many ships. For every one they destroyed, 10 more took its place. On the 4th day, Gethrock sent another message. "Human Admiral, you fight well, but you are beaten. Surrender now and we will make your death quick." Hyun-woo was tired. His uniform was dirty and torn, but his eyes were still bright with determination. Never. The aliens brought up their biggest weapons. Ships the size of mountains moved close to the station. They fired beams of pure destruction that could cut through anything. "Shields failing," Tae-ho called out. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders for days. "Hull breach on deck 7, someone yelled. "Fire suppression systems offline." The reports kept coming. Titan's Gate was dying, but it was not dead yet. On the 6th day, Gethrock played his final card. 3 ships moved into position around the station. They were different from the others. They glowed with a sickly yellow light. "What are those?" So-min asked. Tae-ho checked his sensors. His face went pale. Planet killers. They're charging planet killer weapons. Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped it would not come to this. But he had prepared for this moment for 20 years. He walked to his private console and entered a code that only he knew. A red light began to flash. Sir? So Min asked. Captain, I need you to record a message for Earth. Hyunwoo's voice was calm, but his hands shook slightly. Tell them that Titan's Gate fought to the end. Tell them we held for 6 days against impossible odds. Admiral, what are you doing? Hyunwoo looked at his crew one last time. These brave people had followed him into hell itself. They deserved to know the truth. I'm sending a special message to Earth. There are things about our military that even you don't know, Captain. Secrets that have been kept for 200 years. He typed in the final code. Protocol Midnight Sun is authorized. The message shot toward Earth faster than light itself. 10 minutes later, the planet killer weapons fired. The beams of yellow energy hit Titan's Gate from 3 directions at once. The fortress that had stood for 50 years was torn apart in seconds. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. 50,000 humans died that day. The Vorthak celebrated their victory. They thought they had broken humanity's spirit. They thought the war was over. They had never been more wrong about anything in their lives. Far away on Earth, Fleet Admiral Jin-A read Hyunwoo's final message. She stood up from her desk and walked to a window that looked out over the ocean. For 200 years, humanity had been preparing for this day. The sleeping giant was about to wake up. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Admiral Jin-A stood in the deepest part of Earth's military headquarters. The room was so far underground that most people did not even know it existed. Around her, officers worked at stations that controlled humanity's greatest secret. General Dongmin walked up to her. His face was serious. The message from Hyunwoo came through. Titan's Gate is gone. Jin-A nodded slowly. She had trained Hyunwoo herself 30 years ago. He was like a son to her. But there was no time for sadness now. Begin Protocol Midnight Sun immediately. Yes, ma'am. Across the room, Dr. Hai-Ri was already working at her computer. She was the smartest person Jin-A had ever met. For 20 years, Hai-Ri had run the most important project in human history. Doctor, how long until the fleet is ready? Jin-A asked. Hai-Ri looked up from her screen. Her eyes were bright with excitement. The ships have been ready for months, Admiral. We just need to activate the crews. Jin-A walked to the center of the room. A massive display showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies. Blue dots showed alien worlds. But there were other dots on the map. Thousands of them. They were colored green and they were everywhere. Show them, Jin-A said. The display changed. Suddenly the green dots began to move. They were not planets or stations. They were ships. Hundreds of thousands of ships. General Dongmin smiled for the first time in days. 200 years of secret construction. Hidden shipyards in asteroid belts. Factories built inside hollow moons. Robot workers that never got tired and never told secrets. How many ships? Asked a young officer who had never seen the full fleet before. 500,000, Hai-Ri said proudly. 50,000 destroyers for fast attacks. 200,000 cruisers for long battles. 150,000 battleships with the heaviest guns. 75,000 carriers full of fighter drones. And 25,000 dreadnoughts with weapons that can crack planets. The young officer's mouth fell open. That's impossible. How did we build so many without anyone knowing? Jin-A turned to him. What do you think we've been doing for the last 2 centuries? While other races fought small wars and made trade deals, we prepared for the day someone would threaten Earth. Dr. Hai-Ri brought up another display. It showed the inside of one of the new ships. The technology was amazing. Every ship has learning computers that get smarter during battle. Weapons that bend space and time. Shields that can absorb enemy fire and shoot it back at them. The aliens think they know human technology, General Dongmin added. They've seen our merchant ships and colony vessels. But they've never seen our warships. These ships are 200 years more advanced than anything we've shown the galaxy. A communication came in from one of the hidden bases. Captain J-1 appeared on the screen. He was young, but had trained his whole life for this moment. Admiral Jin-A, the First Strike Fleet, is ready to launch. All captains are at their stations. Jin-A looked at him. Captain, do you understand what we're asking you to do? Yes, ma'am. We're going to show the Vorthak that they made a big mistake. Good. But remember, we are not like them. We don't kill civilians. We don't destroy planets for fun. We are going to win this war, but we're going to do it the right way. Jaewon nodded. Understood, Admiral. The hidden shipyards were amazing to see. They were built inside asteroids that looked empty from the outside. But inside they were full of activity. Robot workers put the final touches on massive warships. Human crews ran through last-minute training exercises. Each ship was a work of art. The destroyers were fast and deadly, like space fighters but 100 times bigger. The cruisers could fight for days without stopping. The battleships had guns that could destroy a city with one shot, but the dreadnoughts were special. Each one was like a flying fortress. They carried weapons that most aliens thought were impossible to build. Gravity bombs that could crush an enemy ship from the inside. Phase cannons that could shoot through shields like they were not there. Captain Jaewon walked through his new ship for the first time. It was called the Eternal Vengeance. The name was painted on the side in letters 10 feet tall. The ship was 3 miles long and carried more firepower than most alien fleets. Sir, all systems are online, his first officer reported. The crew is ready. Jaewon sat in the captain's chair. It felt right, like he had been born for this moment. How many ships in our attack group? 100,000, sir. The biggest fleet in human history. But it was not the biggest fleet humanity had. Not even close. There were 4 more fleets just as large waiting in other star systems. The aliens had no idea what was coming for them. Back on Earth, Jin-A gathered her top officers for one final meeting. The Vorthak think they've won. They're spreading their ships across 20 systems, claiming human colonies as their own. They feel safe. That's about to change, General Dongmin said. Our ships are faster than theirs, Dr. Hai-Ri explained. Our hyperspace drives can jump farther and more accurately. We can hit them everywhere at once before they know we're coming. Jin-A stood up. Around her, the officers also stood. These men and women had dedicated their lives to this moment. Some had worked in secret for decades, building ships and training crews. Others had pretended to be simple merchants while actually gathering intelligence on alien worlds. For 200 years, humanity has prepared for this day, Jin-A said. We knew that someday someone would threaten Earth. We knew that peace could only last so long. So we built the greatest war fleet in galactic history. She walked to the big display that showed all 500,000 ships. But we didn't build this fleet to conquer. We built it to protect. The Vorthak will learn today that humanity is not weak. We are not victims. When you threaten our families, when you attack our homes, you wake up something that should have been left sleeping. The officers saluted. It was time to begin the greatest military operation in human history. Send the signal to all fleets, Jin-A ordered. Operation Midnight Sun is a go. Across the galaxy, hidden shipyards opened their doors. Ships that had waited in darkness for decades flew out into the light of stars. Captains who had trained their whole lives for this moment finally got their chance to show what they could do. The aliens had started this war by destroying Titan's Gate. They thought one victory would make humanity surrender. They were about to learn that they had not defeated humanity. They had only made humanity angry, and an angry humanity was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Captain Jaewon watched as his fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. 100,000 ships stretched out in all directions around him. Each one was crewed by humans who wanted revenge for Titan's Gate. Each one carried weapons that would shock the aliens. All ships report ready, sir. Then let's go remind the galaxy why you don't attack Earth. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. They were going to hit 12 Vorthak bases at the same time. The aliens would never see them coming. The real war was about to begin. The Vorthak base at Kepler Station was quiet. The aliens thought they were safe. They had just won the greatest victory in their history by destroying Titan's Gate. Their ships were spread out across human space, taking over colonies and stealing resources. Commander Yuna's stealth ship was only a few thousand miles away, but the aliens could not see it. Her ship was designed to be invisible. It used technology that bent light around the hull and blocked all signals. How many ships at the base? Yuna asked her sensor officer. 200, Commander. Mostly cruisers and destroyers. They're not expecting any trouble. Yuna smiled. That was about to change. Send the data to Admiral Sang-ho. Tell him we have a clear picture of enemy positions. Her ship was one of 50 stealth vessels that had been watching Vorthak forces for weeks. The aliens had no idea that human eyes were everywhere, seeing everything they did. Admiral Sang-ho received the intelligence reports on his flagship. He commanded 100,000 ships, but the enemy still did not know he was coming. His fleet was hiding in empty space between star systems, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. All target zones confirmed, his communications officer reported. Stealth teams have eyes on 12 enemy bases. Total enemy ships, about 3,000, spread thin across multiple systems. Sang-Ho nodded. The aliens had made a classic mistake. After their big victory, they thought the war was over. They had spread their forces out to control human territory instead of keeping them together for defense. Signal all fleet commanders. Begin the attack in exactly 1 hour. Hit them hard and fast. Don't give them time to call for help. The message went out to 12 different attack groups. Each one had been assigned a different target. The plan was simple. Attack everywhere at once and destroy the enemy before they could react. Captain J-Wan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vengeance. His ship was leading the attack on Kepler Station. Around him, 8,000 ships waited for his signal. It was the largest space fleet any human had ever commanded. "Sir, we're ready to jump," his navigator reported. "All ships, this is Captain J-Wan. Today we show the aliens what happens when they attack Earth. Remember, we fight for every human who died at Titan's Gate. We fight for our families back home. Let's make them pay." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. At Kepler Station, the Vorthak were having a celebration. They were drinking alien alcohol and bragging about their victory. Warmaster Gethrock had promised them that the humans were beaten. The war was over. Then their sensors started screaming. "What is that?" demanded the base commander. "Ships coming out of hyperspace," the sensor operator said. His voice was shaking. "Lots of ships. Too many to count." The first thing the aliens saw was the Eternal Vengeance. It was bigger than their largest battleship and covered with weapons they had never seen before. But behind it came thousands more ships. The entire space around Kepler Station filled with human vessels. "Impossible," the base commander whispered. "The humans don't have this many ships. Our intelligence said they only had a few hundred warships. Sir, I count 8,000 enemy vessels. They're surrounding the station." The human fleet moved like a perfectly trained dance team. Each ship knew exactly where to go. Within minutes, they had formed a complete circle around the alien base. Captain J-Wan opened a communication channel to the Vorthak base. "This is Captain J-Wan of the Human Defense Force. You attacked our fortress and killed our people. Now you will pay the price." The alien commander tried to sound brave. "You cannot defeat us. We have 200 ships here. We will fight to the last warrior." "You will fight with 200 ships against 8,000, J-Wan replied. "You do the math." The battle began immediately. The human ships opened fire all at once, but these were not the same weapons the aliens had seen before. These were guns that humanity had been developing in secret for 2 centuries. The first volleys hit the alien ships like hammers. Energy beams cut through their shields as if they were made of paper. Missiles that could think for themselves chased enemy vessels through space, dodging defensive fire until they found their targets. One Vorthak cruiser tried to run. A human destroyer chased after it. The alien ship was faster, but the human ship did something impossible. It disappeared and then reappeared right in front of the fleeing cruiser. The alien captain had just enough time to scream before his ship was blown apart. "How did they do that?" the base commander asked. "I don't know, sir. Their ship just vanished and appeared somewhere else." "That's impossible. Ships can't teleport, but the humans could. Their phase shift technology let them jump short distances through space without using hyperspace." To the aliens, it looked like magic. Lieutenant Bo Ram was commanding one of the new experimental ships. Her vessel was smaller than the others, but it carried the most advanced technology in the human fleet. It was called the Probability Walker. "Target the enemy flagship," she ordered. "Ma'am, there are 50 enemy ships between us and the flagship. Not a problem." Bo Ram's ship activated its special weapon. It was called a probability manipulator. It changed the chances of things happening. Enemy shots that should have hit her ship somehow missed. Her shots that should have missed somehow found their targets. To the aliens watching, it looked like Bo Ram's ship was blessed by their gods. Nothing could hit it while everything it shot at exploded. Within 1 hour, the battle was over. All 200 Vorthak ships were destroyed. Kepler Station surrendered without firing another shot. Not a single human ship was lost, but this was just one battle. The same thing was happening at 11 other locations across the galaxy. 100,000 human ships had struck at 12 different targets at exactly the same time. At Rigel Base, Admiral Sang-Ho himself led the attack. He faced the largest Vorthak fleet, 500 ships guarding their main supply depot. The aliens thought they could hold out behind their fortress shields. They were wrong. Sang-Ho's dreadnoughts fired weapons that manipulated gravity itself. The alien fortress was pulled apart by its own gravity field. The shields that had protected the base for decades turned inside out and crushed the ships they were supposed to protect. "Report," Sang-Ho called out. "All enemy ships destroyed, sir. The base is asking to surrender. Accept their surrender. Take prisoners and secure all intelligence data." Similar reports came in from all 12 attack zones. The first day of the human counterattack was a complete success. Over 3,000 Vorthak ships had been destroyed. Human losses, 0, but the aliens were not the only ones watching these battles. Other species across the galaxy saw what happened through their spy networks and trade connections. News traveled fast in space. The Thrakari Empire called an emergency session of their war council. "The humans have been hiding their true strength," their intelligence chief reported. "These ships use technology we've never seen before. How many ships do they have?" asked the Emperor. "We don't know, Your Majesty. Our best guess is 50,000, maybe 100,000. That's enough to threaten any empire in the galaxy." The Emperor was right to be worried, but he had no idea how wrong his intelligence was. The humans had not revealed even half of their fleet yet. On the bridge of the Eternal Vengeance, Captain J-Wan read reports from the other battle zones. Every attack had succeeded perfectly. The aliens were learning that the humans they thought they had beaten were actually the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. "Sir, we're getting messages from the other Vorthak bases," his communications officer reported. "They're asking what happened to their fleets." "Let them wonder," J-Wan said. "Pretty soon they'll find out for themselves." The human ghost fleet had revealed itself to the galaxy. Ships that had been built in secret for 2 centuries were finally flying free. Weapons that alien scientists thought were impossible were burning enemy fleets from the stars. The Vorthak had thought they were hunting sheep. Instead, they had woken up a sleeping dragon, and the dragon was very, very angry. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 12 Vorthak military bases had been destroyed in a single day. 3,000 alien ships were gone. The humans, who everyone thought were beaten, had struck back with a force no one had imagined. On the Thrakari homeworld, Emperor Vex called together his military leaders. "How many ships do the humans really have?" he demanded. "We're not sure, Your Majesty," his intelligence minister said. "Our spies counted 100,000 ships in yesterday's attacks, but there might be more." Emperor Vex felt cold fear in his chest. His empire had 50,000 ships. He had thought that made him one of the strongest powers in the galaxy. "Contact the Vorthak immediately. We need to join forces before the humans attack us too." But it was already too late for that. Admiral Sang-Ho was reading intelligence reports from Commander He-Young's spy network. The Thrakari were planning to help the Vorthak. That made them enemies of humanity. "How many Thrakari worlds should we hit?" Sang-Ho asked his staff. "Intelligence suggests their main military bases are on 7 worlds," replied Captain Minho. "But sir, some of those worlds have millions of civilians." "We don't target civilians," Sang-Ho said firmly. "We're not like the aliens. We'll hit only military targets. Let the civilians see that humanity fights with honor." The human fleet had grown larger. More ships kept arriving from the hidden bases. What had started as 100,000 vessels was now 200,000. Each day brought more captains and crews who had trained their whole lives for this war. Captain J-Wan now commanded not just one ship, but an entire battle group. 50,000 ships followed his orders. It was more military power than most alien empires had ever built. "Sir, we're approaching Vorthak Prime," his navigator reported. It's their homeworld. Population, 12 billion aliens. J-Wan studied the planet on his main screen. It was protected by enormous space stations, each one bigger than Titan's Gate had been. Weapons platforms surrounded the world like a metal moon. This would not be an easy fight. "Enemy fleet strength?" he asked. 800 ships, sir, plus the orbital defenses. They've been building these fortifications for 300 years. Contact Captain Minho, tell him his siege ships are needed here. Captain Minho commanded the specialist vessels designed to break fortress worlds. His ships carried weapons that most aliens thought were impossible to build, gravity bombs that could turn a planet's own weight against its defenses, reality scramblers that made space itself unstable around enemy positions. This is Minho. My ships are ready. What's the target? Those orbital platforms, Jaewon replied. Can you take them out without damaging the planet? Give me 30 minutes. Minho's ships moved into position around Vorthak Prime. To the aliens watching, it looked like only 50 ships were attacking their strongest defenses. They thought the humans were crazy. Fire gravity torpedoes, Minho ordered. The weapons that launched from his ships looked small and harmless, but when they reached the orbital platforms, something amazing happened. The massive space stations began to fold in on themselves. Their own gravity fields were turned against them, crushing the metal structures like empty cans. Impossible, whispered the Vorthak defense commander. Our platforms are made of the strongest metal in the galaxy. Not strong enough to resist their own gravity, his science officer replied. The humans have weaponized gravity itself. Within an hour, all the orbital defenses were gone. The strongest fortress in Vorthak space had been destroyed by 50 human ships. But the real shock came when Commander Hee-Young began her psychological warfare campaign. Human ships started broadcasting messages across the entire galaxy. The messages were simple but terrifying. This is the Human Defense Force, the broadcast began. We are currently deploying 500,000 warships to restore peace to the galaxy. Any world that surrenders now will be treated with honor. Any world that fights will be destroyed. 500,000 ships? Emperor Vex dropped his drink when he heard the number. That's impossible. No one has ever built that many ships. But intelligence reports kept coming in. Human fleets were appearing everywhere. Not just hundreds of ships, but thousands. Not just thousands, but tens of thousands. Species that had thought themselves safe in remote star systems suddenly found human dreadnoughts in their space. The Antari Republic was one of the first to surrender. They had watched the destruction of the Vorthak bases and decided they wanted no part of this war. We surrender to the Human Defense Force, their president announced. We ask for protection against other hostile aliens. Admiral Sang-Ho accepted their surrender personally. The Antari people will be protected, he promised. Humanity does not conquer. We liberate. But not all species were willing to give up without a fight. The Thrakari Empire decided to make their stand at the fortress world of Keth, Prime. They gathered their entire fleet, 50,000 ships, to defend their most important military base. It was the largest space battle in galactic history, 50,000 Thrakari ships against 100,000 human vessels. The fighting lasted for 3 days and could be seen from a dozen star systems away. Captain Jaewon led the assault personally. His ship, the Eternal Vengeance, charged straight into the center of the enemy fleet. Thrakari ships fired everything they had at him, but their weapons could not penetrate his shields. Return fire, Jaewon ordered. His ship's main guns fired once. The energy beam cut through space and hit the Thrakari flagship. The alien vessel, which was twice the size of any human ship, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris. It was there 1 second and gone the next. What kind of weapon was that? Asked a terrified Thrakari captain. Quantum disruptor, replied a human officer who heard the radio transmission. It removes matter from this reality. Your ship didn't explode. It just stopped existing. The psychological effect was devastating. Thrakari captains started surrendering rather than face weapons that could erase them from existence. But the Thrakari Emperor refused to give up. He ordered his ships to attack human colonies, thinking he could force humanity to negotiate. That was his final mistake. Captain Jaewon received new orders from Earth. Admiral Jin-A herself gave him permission to use humanity's ultimate weapon. Sir, are you sure? Jaewon asked. Star-killer torpedoes have never been used in combat before. The Thrakari just attacked our civilians, Jin-A replied over the long-range communicator. They need to learn that some lines should never be crossed. Jaewon looked at his weapons officer. Load star-killer torpedoes. Target the Keth system's sun. Sir, that will destroy the entire star system. The star won't explode. It will just stop burning. The Thrakari will have to evacuate, but they'll live. Sometimes the greatest mercy is showing your enemy a power so terrible that they stop fighting. The torpedo that launched from the Eternal Vengeance was no bigger than a regular missile. But when it reached the star at the center of the Keth system, something unprecedented happened. The star went out, not exploded, not collapsed. It simply stopped producing light and heat. The nuclear fires that had burned for billions of years just ended. Within hours, every world in the system was freezing. The Thrakari fleet had no choice but to evacuate their people to other star systems. The message spread across the galaxy within days. Humanity could extinguish stars. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly sent messages of surrender. Trade empires that had thought themselves safe in distant nebulae begged for human protection. The war was effectively over. No one wanted to fight an enemy that could turn off suns. Emperor Vex of the Thrakari Empire sent a personal message to Admiral Jinai. The Thrakari Empire surrenders unconditionally. We beg for mercy. Mercy is what separates us from you, Jinai replied. Your people will live. Your worlds will be protected. But you will never threaten innocent beings again. Warmaster Gethrock, who had started this war by destroying Titan's Gate, was found hiding in a merchant ship trying to escape to the edge of the galaxy. Human ships surrounded him before he could jump to hyperspace. This is Captain J1, came the message to his ship. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Gethrock knew he was beaten. The humans had not just defeated his fleets. They had revealed technologies that made his people look like children playing with toys. I surrender, he transmitted back. The galaxy was quiet for the first time in decades. 500,000 human warships patrolled the space lanes. But they were not conquerors. They were guardians. The age of alien aggression was over. The age of human protection had begun. 6 months after the war ended, Admiral Hyun-woo walked through the rebuilt corridors of Titan's Gate. He was alive. The escape pod that had saved him during the station's destruction had been found floating in deep space by a human rescue ship. It's good to see you again, old friend, Fleet Admiral Jinai said as she met him at the docking bay. Hyun-woo smiled. I heard you used my authorization code to wake up the entire fleet. Was it worth it? Look around and tell me. The new Titan's Gate was twice as large as the old one. But this was not just a military fortress. It was a place where dozens of alien species came to trade, learn, and settle disputes peacefully. Human and alien children played together in the station's parks. Former enemies worked side by side in the research labs. 56 species have joined the Terran Galactic Confederation, Jinai explained as they walked. We're not ruling them. We're protecting them and helping them build something better. Captain So-min approached them. She now wore the uniform of a station commander. Admiral Hyun-woo, welcome home. The memorial service was beautiful. We thought you were dead. I was supposed to be dead, Hyun-woo replied, but someone decided I still had work to do. The memorial he spoke of honored the 50,000 humans who had died when the original Titan's Gate was destroyed. Their names were carved into a wall of black stone that could be seen from anywhere in the station. But next to it was another wall with a different message. They died so that others might live in peace. Ambassador Eun-ji was in the main conference hall, working with representatives from 40 different worlds. She had become the head of the new galactic government. Her job was to make sure that all species had a voice, even the ones that had once been enemies. The Vorthak delegation wants to discuss reparations, she told Jinai. They're offering to rebuild the human colonies they destroyed. Accept their offer, Jinai replied, but make sure they understand that they're not buying forgiveness. They're earning their place in the new order. Warmaster Gethrock was now a prisoner, but he was treated well according to human laws. He had asked to speak with Jinai personally. Why didn't you kill me? He asked when she visited his cell. Your people had every right to execute me for what I did. Because we're not you, Jinai replied simply. We don't believe that killing solves everything. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison, but you'll live. Maybe someday you'll understand why that matters. Gethrock looked confused. Your species is strange. You have the power to destroy entire star systems, but you choose mercy instead. That's what makes us different from every other species in the galaxy. Power without wisdom is just destruction. Power with wisdom can create something beautiful. The 500,000 ships of the human fleet had spread across the galaxy, but they were no longer weapons of war. They had become the guardians of peace. Pirates found themselves facing human destroyers that could appear anywhere in seconds. Slave traders discovered that their business was no longer profitable when human cruisers were always watching. Captain J1 commanded the Guardian fleet from his flagship. The Eternal Vengeance had been renamed the Eternal Peace. Its weapons were still there, but they had not been fired in combat for months. Sir, "We're getting a distress call from the Zephyr system," his communications officer reported. "Pirates are attacking a trade convoy." "How many pirate ships?" J1 asked. 12, sir. The convoy has no military escort. Send 3 destroyers." That should be enough. It was more than enough. The pirates surrendered as soon as they saw human ships approaching. Word had spread across the galaxy. You did not fight humans and expect to win. Dr. Hy-Ree was working on new projects now. Instead of building weapons, she was developing technology to help rebuild the worlds damaged by centuries of war. Medical devices that could cure diseases no alien doctor understood. Terraforming machines that could make dead worlds green again. "The Andraki homeworld has been poisoned by industrial waste for 300 years, she explained to a group of alien scientists. "Using human technology, we can clean their atmosphere in just 5 years. "Why would humans help us?" asked an Andraki scientist. "We never helped you, because it's the right thing to do," Hy-Ree replied. "We have the power to help, so we help. It's that simple." The galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. Species that had fought each other for millennia were learning to work together under human protection. The Korthak and the Villani had been enemies for 1,000 years, but now their children attended the same schools on human-protected worlds. Commander He Young ran the new intelligence network, but its job was different now. Instead of finding enemy weaknesses, it watched for threats to peace. Instead of planning attacks, it organized relief efforts for worlds hit by natural disasters. "The Omega Sector is being hit by solar storms," she reported to Jin. 17 worlds need evacuation assistance. Send. "The 4th Fleet," Jin A ordered, "and tell them to bring the new atmospheric processors. We might be able to save some of those worlds." General Dong Min had retired from military service and become the head of the new Galactic Academy. Young beings from dozens of species came to Earth to learn about science, medicine, and engineering. But they also learned about human values, cooperation, mercy, and the responsibility that came with power. "Power is not about how much you can destroy," he told a class of young aliens. "It's about how much you can protect and build. Any fool can break things. It takes wisdom to create something that lasts." 1 year after the war ended, the galaxy held its first Galactic Peace Festival. Representatives from every member species gathered on Earth to celebrate their new unity. Former enemies stood together and watched human children perform music with alien instruments. Emperor Vex of the Thrakari Empire, now a member of the Confederation Council, spoke to the crowd. "1 year ago, we thought strength meant conquest. The humans taught us that real strength means protection. We are grateful to learn this lesson without being destroyed for our ignorance, Captain." So Min stood on the observation deck of the new Titan's Gate and watched the celebration. Broadcasts from Earth. The space around the station was full of ships from 100 different worlds, but they were not warships. They were merchant vessels, passenger liners, and exploration ships. "It's beautiful," said Lieutenant Yu Jin, one of the young officers who had never seen the galaxy at war. "It is." So Min agreed. "But remember that it only exists because good people were willing to fight for it. Peace isn't free. Someone always has to pay the price." Admiral Hyun Woo joined them at the window. "The price was paid by 50,000 brave souls who died defending the station. But look what their sacrifice bought us." Outside, alien children from a dozen different species played zero-gravity games in the station's recreational areas. Their parents, who had once been enemies, worked together in research labs and trade centers. "Do you think it will last?" Yujin asked. "As long as humans remember why we built this fleet in the first place," Hyunwoo replied. "We didn't build 500,000 warships to conquer the galaxy. We built them to protect it. As long as we remember that, the peace will last." Fleet Admiral Jin A was in her office on Earth looking at reports from across the galaxy. Crime was at the lowest level in recorded history. No major wars had been fought in 8 months. Trade between species was creating prosperity that none of them had ever known alone, but she knew that peace was fragile. There would always be those who wanted to break it for their own gain. That's why the Guardian fleet would always be needed. A message came in from Captain J1. "Long-range sensors detect an unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. Ships of a design we've never seen before. What are your orders?" Janae smiled. Humanity had shown the galaxy what happened when you threatened Earth. Now it looked like they might have to teach that lesson to someone new. "Send a diplomatic message first," she ordered. Tell them about the Confederation and invite them to join us. But make sure they can see our Guardian fleet when you do it. Understood, Admiral. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace protected by the most powerful military force ever created. 500,000 ships stood ready to defend the innocent and stop the aggressive. The age of galactic war was over. The age of human guardianship had begun, and in the deep archives of Earth, plans were already being drawn for new ships, new technologies, and new ways to protect the growing family of galactic civilizations. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all, the price of peace is eternal vigilance. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it would never sleep again.